It all began on a quiet afternoon in a small neighborhood where the sun cast long shadows over the old wooden houses. On the porch of one of those homes sat Mrs. Johnson, a 72-year-old black woman with silver hair neatly tied back, wearing a simple gray dress. She was known in her community for her kindness, always offering food to children who came by, always smiling despite the hardships she carried. But on that day, her peaceful afternoon turned into a nightmare. A police car pulled up suddenly, the screech of tires breaking the silence. Two officers stepped out, their faces stern, their movements sharp. Without greeting, without explanation, the male officer barked, "Ma'am, we've had reports of suspicious activity here. Stand up." Confused, Mrs. Johnson looked up, her frail hands trembling slightly. "Suspicious? Officer, I live here. I've lived here for over 40 years. But the officers didn't listen. The female officer glanced at her partner, smirking. "Check her. She might be hiding something." The elderly woman's heart sank. She had done nothing wrong. She had never even had so much as a speeding ticket in her life. But now, two strangers in uniform treated her like a criminal in her own home. The male officer stepped closer, his hand hovering over his holster as if this grandmother could be dangerous. "Show us some ID," he demanded. Mrs. Johnson slowly reached for her purse, but before she could pull anything out, the female officer snapped, "Not so fast! Keep your hands where I can see them!" The tension was unbearable. Neighbors peeked through their windows, whispering. Phones came out. People began recording. "Why are they harassing her?" someone murmured. But the officers didn't care about the eyes watching. They were locked into their power trip. Mrs. Johnson's voice cracked. "Please, I'm not a threat. This is my home." The male officer sneered. "Lady, you fit the description. People always do." Those words cut through the air like a knife, racist, degrading, and cruel. Tears welled in her eyes, not just from fear, but from the pain of being treated as less than human. And just when it seemed the situation couldn't get worse, fate intervened. A sleek black car pulled up. The door slammed open. Out stepped a man in a tailored navy blue suit, his face a storm of anger and determination. This was David Johnson, Mrs. Johnson's son. But he wasn't just any son. He was one of the most respected defense lawyers in the city, known for tearing apart corrupt officials in the courtroom. The moment his eyes fell on his mother, cornered and humiliated, his blood boiled. "Get your hands off my mother," he shouted, his deep voice echoing down the street. The officers turned, startled. The male officer squared his shoulders, trying to maintain control. "Sir, step back. This doesn't concern you." David walked closer, his eyes blazing. "Doesn't concern me? That's my mother, and unless you want the biggest lawsuit of your career, you're going to explain exactly why you're harassing a 72-year-old woman sitting on her own porch." The female officer shifted uncomfortably. The male officer tried to brush it off. "She fits the description. We got a call." David's laugh was cold. "Fits the description? That's your excuse? Do you even know her name? Do you know anything about this property? Or are you just throwing your weight around because you think no one will fight back?" By now, the neighbors had gathered in small groups. Phones were recording every second. The pressure built. David reached into his briefcase and pulled out documents. "My mother owns this home. Here's the deed. Here's her ID. And here's something else you should know. I am her legal representative. So congratulations, officers. Every word, every action of yours tonight is now evidence in a case of unlawful harassment, racial profiling, and abuse of power." The officers exchanged nervous glances. The female officer muttered, "We didn't mean..." But David cut her off sharply. "No, don't backpedal now. You had no warrant, no probable cause, and no respect. You humiliated an innocent elderly woman. My mother raised me to believe in justice, and tonight you're going to face it." The crowd erupted with support. "Yeah!" someone shouted. "Leave her alone!" Another neighbor added, We got everything on video! The officer's authority crumbled as the weight of public opinion and legal threat bore down on them. The male officer's voice wavered. Sir, maybe we can talk about this. But David stepped even closer, his voice like steel. The only people you'll be talking to are your superiors and my colleagues at the courthouse. And believe me, this won't be swept under the rug. Tears streamed down Mrs. Johnson's cheeks, but now they were tears of relief. She stood, her son's presence giving her strength. David, she whispered, it's okay. But he shook his head. No, Mom, it's not okay. You deserve better. Everyone deserves better. Within hours, the video of the incident went viral. News outlets replayed the footage of the police harassing an elderly black woman only to be confronted by her lawyer son. Comment sections exploded with outrage. Civil rights groups demanded accountability. The police department scrambled to issue statements, but the damage was done. The two officers were suspended pending investigation. And David, he didn't stop there. He filed a lawsuit, not just for his mother, but to set a precedent for every innocent person harassed without cause. In the courtroom, he stood tall, presenting the evidence with the same fire he had that night. The jury didn't need long to decide. Justice was served. The department issued a formal apology to Mrs. Johnson, and new policies were implemented to prevent future abuse. But beyond the legal victory, the real story was deeper. Mrs. Johnson, a humble woman who had endured decades of prejudice, saw her son fight for her with the strength she had once used to raise him. It was a full circle of love and resilience. And David knew, as he hugged his mother tightly after the trial, that this was more than just a case. It was a message that no one, no matter how old, no matter how powerless they seem, should ever be treated without dignity. And a reminder that when you least expect it, karma arrives in the form of truth, justice, and sometimes in the form of a lawyer's son determined to protect the woman who once protected him. And so, the officers learned a hard lesson that day. Never underestimate the strength of a mother, and never underestimate the fire of a son who knows the law, because when injustice strikes, justice strikes back harder.